All right, with these next few examples, we are going to find the distance between places on a coordinate grid using Pythagorean theorem. So this first one says Rachel's moving around the world, but first has to stop in Houston to see her favorite sister. Right now, she lives in New York City and is moving to Australia. How many miles will Rachel be flying altogether? First thing I notice is that our grid does not have any labels, so we're going to go ahead and label it right now. Let's label, even though I know that this is going to be a much greater scale because we're talking about miles between US cities, let's just keep it simple and let's just label these with, let's go by ones. That will help us simplify this problem. Okay, so notice Australia is down in quadrant 3, so we're going to have some negatives here. Okay, so she is starting, I believe, in New York City, and her first stop is to go to Houston. So New York City is right here, and it looks like the coordinates are -2, +4. Her first stop is Houston, and Houston is located at +2, +2. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line to connect those two cities together. I'm going to use red for a second. Whoopsie. Okay. So before we're able to figure out the distance between New York and Houston, we're going to follow those steps we did on our last activity, and we're going to create a right triangle. So I'm going to use that distance between those two to be the hypotenuse of a right triangle, and I'm going to draw the vertical leg, and now I'm drawing the horizontal leg. So we're going to use Pythagorean theorem to help us figure out the distance between those two. Then we're going to have to do it again to figure out the distance between Houston and Australia. So let's go ahead and figure out the lengths of each leg. So looking at the horizontal leg, we've got, whoops, let me try to switch to a different color here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that leg is 4 units. So I'm going to go ahead and just say that that's A, 4 squared. And then this leg, the vertical leg, has 2 units. That's 2 squared. And we don't know the length of the hypotenuse because that's the distance between the two cities. It's probably more like thousands, but we're simplifying it. We're just going to leave it as these single digit numbers. Okay, so 4 squared is 16. 2 squared is 4. 16 plus 4 is 20. So now I've got to take the square root of 20. It's not a perfect square, so let's round to the nearest tenth, which is about 4.5 units. All right, so we just figured out the distance between New York and Houston on this simple grid. Now we've got to figure out the distance from Houston to Australia. So Houston, I'm going to use a different color. Houston is right here, and Australia is way down here. So I'm going to draw a line to connect those two. Now we're trying to figure out the length of that line, that hypotenuse. So we've got to make a right triangle. I'm going to go ahead and draw the horizontal section of the right triangle. And now I'm going to draw the vertical section of the right triangle. And once again, we're going to use Pythagorean theorem to figure out the length here. So, oh, I didn't write the coordinates for Australia. So Australia is, the x-coordinate is -4, and the y-coordinate is -5. So we're trying to find the distance between this point, -4, -5, and then +2, +2. So let's figure out the length of the horizontal leg. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. And then the length of the vertical leg, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 units. And we're going to use Pythagorean theorem. So those are the lengths of the legs. So 6 squared plus 7 squared equals c squared. 6 squared is 36. 7 squared is 49. 36 plus 49, I got 85. Now I'm going to take the square root of that. And since it's not a perfect square, go ahead and round your answer to the nearest tenth. And I got approximately 9.2 units. So the distance between Houston and Australia is approximately 9.2 units. But if you go back to your original question, it's asking us how far total she went. So now we've got to combine those two. We've got to combine the first distance, which was 4.5, with the second distance, which is 9.2, to get her total distance. So 4.5 plus 9.2 is approximately 13.7 units. I hope that made sense.